Now we are part of a bigger movement for social reform in this country, and some of the presses don't like this.
What would you say to the tabloids who say that students are against the strikes?
I'd say they're wrong.
It's in their interest, effectively, to speak a language that is against workers, that is against labour as a movement.
We have a power they can't touch or take away, and it scares them.
There's a lot of anti-strike press in the tabloids at the moment. Do you have any idea why that might be?
Well, it's not uncommon for the press to want to undermine worker struggles. That's not new. I can say also that some of our universities have been pretty bad at union busting tactics, so I'm not surprised that the press has picked that up in this case.
Arguably, some of the right-wing press would probably paint this in a way that is not quite so favourable to you. Do you have any idea why they would want to do that?
The press seems to believe the worst of this country and seems to believe that we are in an ever-diminishing kind of spiral of doom. And I absolutely refuse to accept that view of this country and its people and our diversity here. I believe that we can go from strength to strength, and that when we sow fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that's what people do to try to control others. When you work with hope and you work with values like collaborative efforts, education as a social good, that we value our youth and their contributions to society, we have a power they can't touch or take away, and it scares them. So they double down on their fear, and we're going to double down on the moral high ground and my critical hope. I'm a passionate fan of critical hope. I know exactly what the issues are, and I know it can be better. I will not accept their vision of our future.
There's always an anti-strike narrative on lots to undermine, to divide people, to bring them against us, to undermine the efforts of a strike.
I think the tabloids are very much in the pockets of, corporations, and so it's in their interest, effectively, to speak a language that is against workers, that is against labour as a movement, and that's been the case for a long time in this country. And that's very unfortunate, because actually newspapers are supposed to be, having a degree of objectivity or neutrality in reporting that the tabloids unfortunately have never had. And, I think they just tend to actually paint us in a bad light. And it's easy to adopt an attitude of divide and conquer, because if they make us the enemy, then then nobody has to take responsibility. The government doesn't have to take responsibility for the conditions that they're putting us in.
Why do you think that the tabloids haven't come out and said that the students are supporting the strikes?
Well, I think there's different sections within the press that will convey very different narratives, and because the student body is very diverse, so if you want to, you'll find students who are very supportive and students who are very, very critical, and so I think what I would say though is that it's not always. These are long-term structural issues that we're talking about, and so often for students who are in and out of universities in 3 years, it's hard for them to see this bigger picture, this change over time that we can see, and for them is less salient because they maybe only just arrived in universities. They don't know what they used to be like or what they could be.
What would you say to parents who now say it's a waste of money to go to university?
Well, I think just the fact that we're thinking about education in these terms is the problem. Again, I've seen it from the days when fees weren't so high, and parents would come in with their children to open days, and many of them would be keen to encourage their children to choose something that they were excited about, that they were inspired by. And now I notice parents saying, okay, yes, you love sociology, but you should be doing something that is going to be more cost, that is going to give you more money, that's going to be worth the money. And so the money that we're paying in fees. And so I really noticed this emphasis on the money side of education, and that disrupts then what we're doing and what students choose, what they pick, and how they relate to their studies. And sometimes I'll see students saying, why didn't I get a better mark? I've paid a lot of money to be here. I need my good mark. And so there's a loss of understanding of what the education relationship is and what it could be.
Yes, there's disruption to students. That's not our intention. We intend to disrupt the employer, and the employer is going to try and put the students and the staff against one another. They're going to try and pit us like this. But we know we actually go hand in hand because our students are forced to pay so much for their education in this country, not because of university workers. That was not our choice. That's a government choice. And that was a government decision to defund university education and make it less accessible to people. And we absolutely believe in doing the opposite. So I hope that students will see these demonstrations as care. We care about their learning conditions. They should not be paying these kinds of fees. They should not be exploited the way they are. They should have better. And that's what we're here to give them.
What would you say to the tabloids who say that students are against the strikes?
I'd say they're wrong. I've spoken to hundreds of students and the mood is very different. People see that there is a common fight. They share interest with the teachers because the enemy is the same. There are unelected managers on salaries on hundreds of thousands of pounds. These people have different class interests. These people provide no service useful to the students. And just as the teachers face attacks, the students face rents which are impossible to pay. Students, working class students, must work several jobs. Tuition fees are absurd. International students paying £30,000 a year. Students face pressures just to sue the teachers, and there are some people sitting very comfortably in their managerial positions that are the real enemies. So I, along with many other students I know, are taking action against these conditions.
The students were really supportive. I had to cancel three lectures, and I got emails saying they support us, they know how bad the situation is. So I feel I'm in a good situation here.
That's interesting, because most of the press you read, it'll say that the students are quite upset about it. Why do you think the press paint it in that way?
Because, of course, right now we are part of a bigger movement for social reform in this country, and some of the presses don't like this, so I think that's what's happening.
I'm going to ask you a stupid question. Why won't they like that?
I mean, because there is the government is not in support of giving higher pay to workers, and this is, it's very important right now.